Another trip into divorce court. The fate of the Dodgers at stake. Seems like it's only a matter of time before somebody gives in. We'll take you inside the courtroom with a man who's become the authority on all things McCourt. Bit on this. Meg Whitman spends $119 million of her own money, but her former bosses are not going to vote for her. The real reason eBay won't support Whitman. Lend me your rears. You won't believe KFC's new marketing stunt. Let's just say it involves buns. Oh, and those buns too. All the stories people are talking about and everything you need to know right now on The Filter. Hello again. Off the top, The Filter forefront, our top four of the day, including when it comes to marketing, the Colonel takes a backseat to no one. But we'll get started with this. Corrupt city officials scam money from taxpayers to fatten their own wallets. They raise taxes to raise salaries. They fake meetings to pay themselves for being on the government clock. Sounds like a script from a mob movie, but it is the reality in the city of Bell. The bad guys, though, have been caught. The bad guys are in jail, and the citizens might get justice after all. It's a scandal that's gained national attention, and today the Bell Eight, led by city manager Robert Rizzo, appeared in court. They were dressed in county jail uniforms. None of the defendants entered pleas, but posting bail could be tough for some. They've got to prove that bail money isn't coming out of taxpayers' wallets. But now that the city manager, the assistant city manager, mayor, and 5 council persons are behind bars, what happens to the people and what happens to Bell? Our contributors from ReaganBaby.com, Megan Barth, and the editor of Turner's Two Cents, Cameron Turner. Megan, I'm going to start with you. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. The county's Board of Supervisors approved a plan to let Attorney General Jerry Brown hand Bell over to an independent receiver. He would handle that until new elections can be held. A state-chosen independent leader. Megan, is that a good idea?
I think it's an absolutely good idea. You know, every time that you want an audit, whether it's in the manufacturing sector, private sector, or even public sector, you want to make sure that you have someone that's independent who can give objectivity to what the true problems are and also find the root cause of the problems. There's obviously a lot that's to be uncovered by Bell, a lot that the attorney has uncovered in order to bring up this indictment and bring them to jail. And there is no better time than now to make sure that you have someone from the outside looking in so you can make sure that that person hasn't been tainted by the corruption that's going on in Bell and that can give an objective opinion and a very strong opinion, an unbiased opinion to what illegalities these 8 city council members have infiltrated on the taxpayers.
What do you think, Cameron? Good idea?
Yeah, I agree with Megan 100%. Something has to be done to get this city up and running again. I mean, this may be unprecedented. Just about every top-ranking official in that city is wearing a jail jumpsuit now, as they should be. But the question is, what is going to happen in that community? This, as we know, the city of Bell is a low-income, working-class city, and like everybody else in California, they've been hit hard by this tough economy. So some leadership needs to get put into place right away. Certainly our Attorney General, Jerry Brown, did the right thing by swooping in and bringing these charges and moving quickly on this investigation. So I think that having the state step in and put a receiver in charge is a great idea. This should be temporary. Elections ought to be organized as quickly as possible so that the people of Bell can go to the polls and choose their leaders. But in the short term, absolutely. The state needs to step in, take control of this matter, and bring things to some kind of conclusion and establish some stability.
Let me ask you both, like 10 seconds each, we'll go a little bit over. Do you think other cities around California and other political leaders around California might be concerned now because perhaps in other places they've been playing the same kind of games and now they know they're on the clock and could be caught? Megan, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone's been put on notice, and I think this is just something that perhaps has been going on in other cities, and that's why you had a mandate by, I believe it was the state treasurer, that basically said all the cities have to open their books and prove what each city council member and city manager is making. And so what you did find was, 100 or so cities around the state of California, even more probably by now, was putting their salaries on public record because the taxpayers are paying for these salaries. They are paying for their pensions, and they deserve to know.
Cameron, give me in 10 seconds. What do you think?
Absolutely. Political corruption is as old as politics itself. And the temptation to fleece the people that the political leaders are supposed to serve is often too great for self-interested, greedy folks. So this should serve as a wake-up call. that this kind of rampant, egregious, just bold-faced corruption is not going to go unpunished. And I think certainly anybody out there who's breaking the rules and ripping off the people is going to think twice. And if they don't think twice, they ought to, because justice is coming for you.
All right, talking about politics, let's move on. Meg Whitman has spent millions on her campaign, more money than anybody has spent to try and gain political office. But it appears her money can't buy her one thing, an endorsement from her former boss. Founder of eBay, the man who hired Whitman to run his company and made him millions, praised the Republican candidate today, said she'd do a great job, but won't endorse her. Said he can't do it because they have differences on political issues, namely same-sex marriage. She is strongly opposed and has said she'd go back to court if Prop 8 is overturned. If her old boss at eBay can't endorse her for governor, how big of a problem is that for Meg Whitman, Cameron?
It's not going to be a very big problem because he's not opposed to her on the issues that are most important. Proposition 8 was hugely popular in California, and the recent federal court decision overturning it is pretty unpopular. So the fact that Meg Whitman is in support of that and her former boss is in favor is not going to hurt her at the polls. So ultimately, it doesn't make much of a difference. I do think, however, that this whole overturn the decision, the anti-Prop 8 decision, I think that's a losing cause. I think that if Meg Whitman's going to try to, she might get some votes out of it. But come on, that decision is going to stand. It was a correct, constitutionally sound decision to overthrow a poorly written, prejudicial proposition that had no business going through in the first place. So ultimately, Prop 8 is not going to stand. But the fact that the head of eBay is taking a different position than Meg Whitman is not going to affect her candidacy or her chances for office.
What do you think, Megan? Do you agree with him?
I agree to most points. The fact is you have to look at who endorses Jerry Brown, and who endorses Jerry Brown are the unions. And right now we have a $500 billion unfunded pension mandate that the state is facing. We have 14% unemployment. And we also have a water issue in the Central Valley. None of these three issues have to do with gay marriage. So I don't see that gay marriage is going to play a huge factor as far as this guy not endorsing her for her campaign. And it shouldn't. Like I said, Jerry Brown is endorsed by the unions. Right now, we do know that we have a $500 billion unpunched...
Megan, perhaps fair comments, but we're not talking about Jerry Brown. See, I knew you'd spin it that way.
But we are, in a sense, if we're talking about Meg Whitman, and you have to look at her competition, and you have to look at who's endorsing who.
Yeah, but
if she does not...
Go ahead. I'll give you 10 seconds.
If she does not get endorsed by a former employer because of gay marriage, I would really stress the fact that gay marriage has nothing to do with the three biggest challenges and the three biggest crises that we're facing in California, which is unemployment, water, and jobs.
All right. Got to move on. Here we go. Last week, I talked with City Attorney Carmen Trutanich here on The Filter. We talked about his crackdowns on billboards in L.A., on marijuana dispensaries, and the fact that he's going after RVs in Venice that have been dumping human waste on public streets and beaches. Not only is it disgusting, the RVs are a nuisance to residents, but the residents are fighting back. They're signing petitions to get the RVs off of their streets, and today they got a helping hand from the City Council. Council voted 13-0 to draft an emergency ordinance that would ban oversized vehicles from parking overnight on city streets. That means from 2 to 6 a.m. Find somewhere else to park. Pick up your wheels and move. But is that enough? Is getting them off the street in the middle of the night really the problem? Should the council simply move them off the streets entirely, Megan?
Well, so what? Can they dump their waste outside of 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.? I really don't understand the ordinance. I mean, I think it's a good thing to get if they're unhealthy, if they're dumping waste on the streets, you need to get these vehicles off. If it's only between 2 and 6 a.m., I have to ask what the other 22 hours that these vehicles are doing. If I think it should be taken to the public. Obviously, that the council members have all voted 13-0, so it must be very popular with the public to remove these vehicles, whether they're eyesores or health scares or what have you. I don't know that 4 hours is really enough. I think that they need to really look at this and perhaps have, I know that there are RV lots. There are some down here in Newport Beach and in South Orange County where you can park your RVs and park them for as long as you want. And perhaps that's something that the city needs to look at and make sure that these vehicles, oversized vehicles, need to have a lot or somewhere to park.
What do you think, Cameron? Should they be moved overnight or should they be moved overall?
Well, I think Megan made a good point. You know, what you have here in the Venice area is a lot of people who are living in those RVs. We're talking about homeless folks. So I understand the point of view of residents who find the vehicles themselves to be an eyesore. I don't know how much human waste is being dumped on the street, but certainly that is a disgusting and unsanitary, and that's a health threat. But ultimately, what you're talking about is a problem of homelessness. And where do you go if you're homeless? So I think that I got to pick up on what Megan said a moment ago about if there's a designated place where these vehicles can be parked and some kind of sanitation arrangements can be made. That's the solution ultimately here. And we need to proceed on these matters with a level of humanity that keeps us in touch with the fact that these are our fellow citizens, these are our fellow Americans who are in a situation that many of us could find ourselves in if the economy continues to go the way it does. So let us not be unsympathetic. Let us not be hostile to those people who are living out of these RVs. Let us find a solution for this, which will be humane and just.
Okay. Let's move on. Final topic of the night. Over the years, companies have done plenty of things to catch the eye of customers. They pay millions to bring in the best minds in marketing. You know, sometimes it's the simplest ideas to get the most exposure. KFC is watching its back. Actually, they're watching the backs of young women, paying female college students $500 to promote their new Double Down sandwich by wearing pants, the Colonel, and the words Double Down across their butts. They think it'll help the 6 in 10 young Americans that don't even know who the Colonel is. Somewhere on some young lady's rear, the Colonel is smiling right now. But not everybody likes it. National Organization for Women says it's obnoxious and sexist to use young women's bodies to advertise unhealthy products. It's the women's group, and are they taking this too seriously, or do you find these ads in bad taste, Cameron?
Well, my gut reaction is just from my own moral point of view, and also as a dad with a couple of teenage kids. I'm real sensitive to things of this type, and my initial reaction was to be 100% in agreement with the National Organization for Women. On the surface, this definitely sounds demeaning and insulting, but then when I consider that if you walk around anywhere in our public streets, you will see women with slogans on their rear ends, on shorts, on the backs of sweatpants, the names of companies, the names of products. So I'm not sure that the young women who would agree to do this would consider this somehow demeaning. I'm not sure that it's outside the main of what has been doing. My gut feeling is that there's something creepy about it. But I'm sort of torn, Fred. Sex appeal is a fundamental part of how we advertise products in our society. I don't like the idea of women being reduced to simply a body part.
All right. Well, you know
However,
what? You know what? Let's ask Megan, because I want to know if she'd wear double down on her butt. It's yes or no.
I would not wear double down on my butt. I'll say that. However, sex sells. Okay, that has been historically the fact in marketing. One of the most recent things I can think about is Juicy Couture. Juicy was all over the butts of preteens and teens and college students when Juicy first came out as a designer label. Everyone wore Juicy. However, we're talking about KFC. This sandwich has 32 grams of fat, 540 calories. They are going to have to buy bigger sweatpants for these girls if they are eating their product. That's all I can say, because double down, you're going to have to get double X. There is no way that they are going to look so cute wolfing down these sandwiches. Personally, I wouldn't wear them, but you can't blame them. Juicy Couture did it. Miller Lite uses sex to sell. Even, my goodness, I just watched the 7-Up commercial with some lady bending over with David Spade. Come on. It's just the facts.
All right. Megan and Cameron, good job. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Okay.